Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
Everyone's idiots.
I am Manila.
I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Hi.
Oh, you're so enthused.
I am. You hear the enthusiasm in my voice.
Man, yes, I do.
Excitement.
That's enthusiasm?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we are here to talk all things tech, enthusiastically.
Yep.
Well, let's get into it, shall we? We got some Apple news. That's the first thing on the docket here. Let's talk about Apple, which they announced the M5 processor and also some devices, I guess.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, listener. That's pretty much exactly what happened. This is, for all intents and purposes, an announcement of the M5 processor, which introduces us to the M5 series, and we can kind of make some educated guesses about what the Pro and the Max and whatnot are going to look like when we see them. But for now, the M5 and a few devices in which it exists. The M5 itself, talk about that really quick. It's a Apple Silicon processor. That's... Do we need more detail than that? No. So this one is also built on 3nm process at TSMC. So it's not like a process swap or anything. There's not going to be massive boosts in efficiency or massive changes to computation or anything like that. So this is a fairly iterative design change over the M4. It has a 10-core GPU, which is what they're focusing the most on, because this one has been built with a neural accelerator in each core for AI workloads, which is supposed to be dramatically faster for those AI workloads than previous versions of the Apple Silicon family. They've also built in a third-generation ray tracing engine and some other improvements to the GPU. So what they're kind of claiming is that overall graphics performance is, in terms of rendering and especially ray tracing, is going to be around 40 up to 45% faster than the M4, which is pretty significant. And in terms of the AI workloads, they're saying they don't really give specific numbers, but we're talking about like double the speed kind of thing, like double or triple, or even some people are saying 4x the GPU compute performance when it comes to AI workloads due to the neural accelerators. So big changes to the GPU front in terms of speed. The CPU side of things, not necessarily as significant. They are claiming the world's fastest performance core. So this is, again, it's a 10-core CPU with 6 efficiency cores, 4 performance cores. This is kind of the stack that they've had with the the base series M chips for a little while, which is good. So the performance core, they're saying, is the fastest single core in the world. They're probably right. There's been a few benchmarks that like Geekbench that have come out comparing this to other versions of the M series chips. The single core performance is just absolutely smokes all of the other M series chips, which, okay, that's pretty cool. I will say what was interesting about it is the multi-threaded performance on this thing beats the M1 Ultra, which is the big fat thing that they put in the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio. And it's, it kind of plays in that. So we've reached the point now where the base model Apple Silicon chip now matches the highest end chip from the original launch of Apple Silicon. So now you know that that's where we're at generationally speaking. Obviously, the M4 Max is still significantly faster in terms of multi-core performance than the M5, but it's a landmark. And then, the 16-core neural engine, the powerful new media engine, didn't really lean too hard on those things. They're iterative, probably minor improvements. And then a 30% increase in unified memory bandwidth, which is pretty significant. So the memory bandwidth on this thing is now up to 153 gigabytes per second. And it will now support up to 32 gigs of memory. It was limited to, I think, 24 on the M4. So there you go. That's the M5 processor. The next thing that is happening with Apple's stuff, it is available in the base model 14-inch MacBook Pro, the new iPad Pros, and the Vision Pro. So what has changed with all of those devices? Not much.
They have an M5.
They have an M5 now. So yeah, the base model 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M5 is fundamentally exactly the same as the base model from last year. It's just got an M5 in it instead. Oh, also, you can configure it with up to 4 terabytes of storage now instead of 2. And if you do that, you're a fig-witted moron. Do not pay Apple for storage increases, especially not their maxed out configurations. That's absurd. Insanely expensive. The iPad Pro is a little bit more significant. So this one, in addition to the M5, is also getting the C1X, which is, so the C1 is the mobile, the cellular processor or cellular broadband chip thing. Modem, that's what it's called.
Yes.
that Apple developed and released with the 16E, and they put the C1X into the new stupid skinny phone thing that they released this past year, or a month ago. So that's what the C1X is. It's now in the iPad Pro. So you're getting that for your cellular modem rather than something from Qualcomm. And they have the N1 chip in here as well, which is their custom Wi-Fi and Bluetooth networking chip, which supports Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and Thread. So the N1 is kind of a bit of an unknown for us. We haven't spent much time with it in, the C1 seems pretty good. Doesn't support millimeter wave 5G still, but otherwise it's been pretty good with the iPhone 16E. It remains to be seen how the N1 holds up. So far, no major complaints. So the iPad Pro now has both of those in addition to the M5, which is just Apple putting more and more of the components of these devices into their own direct control, which is, they've been doing it for a long time. Interesting to see how that goes. And it's also charges faster via the USB port. So, yep, cool. So yeah, that's, I guess there was the thing about it being it can now support 120 hertz on external displays, which is, makes sense, honestly. But also, that's an iPad. That's weird. I don't know. You want 120 hertz external display plugged into your iPad. I feel like there's something in your workflow that isn't optimized quite right, if that's a thing that you're doing. But I guess more power to you. You can now do that with an iPad Pro.
There you go.
And then there's the Vision Pro, which is just the same headset with an M5 in it, but also it now supports 120 hertz refresh rate when you're using Mac Virtual Display, which is hopefully going to reduce motion blur and provide a smoother, less nauseating experience, despite lag issues with remote display from a computer. But yeah, that's that. Oh, yeah, there was a new band. It's called the dual knit band. So instead of the old single knit, I guess, which just clamped around the back of your head and everybody said, like, boy, this feels like it should be an incredibly comfortable band when you're holding it in your hands. And then you put it on and you realize that you've just stuck your head in a vise and it sucks because you have to clamp it down so tight in order to keep the headset from falling off. The dual knit is the exact same thing, except it has a second band that goes over the top of your head to provide vertical support. And everyone seems to think that that is significantly more comfortable, which is the thing Apple would have known if they'd paid any attention to anyone else making VR headsets over the past 20 years.
Yep. Well, it's
So,
interesting
there
because
you
I
go.
think they did sell something like this previously.
It was,
But
it was,
it
no.
wasn't included.
They did sell it. It wasn't Apple made. It was made by a
That's
third party.
right.
They sold it in the Apple store, but it wasn't an Apple thing. And everyone was like, I really wish I could get this premium knit band because it's really nice in a format that didn't hurt my face. And now you can. So there you go. If that's worth whatever $3,000 or whatever this thing costs still to you, then more power to you, I suppose.
I mean, if you do
But
have
yes.
the first generation Vision Pro headset, you can buy the band separately for $100.
That is true. Yes.
Which is a lot of
that
money
is
for
true.
a headband.
Oh, interesting story too. Apple is not actually accepting trade-ins of the headset. Like normally when Apple sells a new version of something, you can trade in your old version. And, that's because they expect to be able to resell it or maybe just recycle it or something. Apparently, no on the Vision Pro.
Whoa.
They don't want to try and resell this thing. So there you go. An amazing week of Apple announcements. They announced a new processor, which is in some things.
Here's my question for you. So, I mean, this just goes to the fact that I really hate that Apple, when they announce these things, they don't just replace all the devices that have the base chip in it at the same time, which they can do, but they don't
Yeah.
because they have to have something announced almost every month of the year. So, they've got to spread it out over time. But that being said, is the M5 chip worth waiting to purchase like a Mac, like an M4 Mac Mini or an iPad Air with an M4? Like instead of like if you needed or not needed, but if you were in the market to buy something in the near future, would it be worth waiting until the M5 came out for that one, or is it fine? Obviously the M4 is still a perfectly really good chip.
It's a good chip.
But is the M5 better enough to make it worth waiting for?
See, and that I think that depends entirely on your use case. So looking at the Mac Mini as an example, the M4 Mac Mini versus the M5 Mac Mini, if you are doing what I do on a Mac Mini, which is mostly music composition and production and like graphic design type stuff, Photoshop things, Illustrator things, that kind of stuff, that's mostly CPU work. And the M4 is maybe 15% slower than the M5 in best case scenario for the M5, right? They're pretty close to each other. So you gain a little bit of speed by waiting for the M5. But if you just really want something right now and you don't want to wait until likely it's going to be next March before the Mac Mini gets updated with the M5.
Right.
I would not feel bad at all about buying an M4 now just to use it now for those kinds of use cases. Given that when the M5 comes out, it's a 15% boost and you had 6 months almost with the old one. I think that balances, right? If if it comes around to like next January and February and you still haven't bought the M4 Mac Mini at that point, just wait for the M5. It's only going to be like a month or two. So, however, if your use cases lean more toward graphics, if you're dealing with 3D modeling or CAD of any kind, or you want to try and play games on the thing, anything like that, then I would say waiting for the M5 is probably worth it, because the graphics boost on this thing is supposed to be pretty dang significant. Like, what people are talking about is kind of the 30 to 45% increase range. And that's a significant generational leap in terms of graphic performance. So it depends on your use case. I think, if you're a photographer, then probably just get it now. That's fine. If you're, I don't know, a videographer or an engineer, graphic, or a 3D modeler or something like that, probably worth it to wait for the M5. And especially since at that point, M5 Pro will also be in the table, in the mix, and you'll be able to see exactly what the M5 looks like in terms of graphic performance when you glue two of them together.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what the M5 Pro will be. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think that there's definitely some use cases where it's worth waiting for the M5, but for the average Mac Mini user and the average MacBook Air user, I think you're probably okay going with the M4. And if you're an iMac user, I have other questions, but the short story is you can get an M1 and you won't notice the difference. So there you go.
Yes, that's accurate.
Fair. All right. Well, next Apple thing here. How about Apple's biggest announcement in probably 20 years?
Yes. Listener, this is absolutely huge. Okay. And Apple was really kind of sly with this one, I've got to say, which makes it even more exciting, if I'm being completely honest. They announced this past week that F1, the movie, which was released in theaters to quite a lot of success and reasonably good critical acclaim, is going to be making its streaming debut on December 12th. So, okay, that's nice. Why do I care, Caleb? I hear you asking. Turns out, at the same time, they will be rebranding Apple TV Plus as simply Apple TV.
Which is not going to be confusing at all.
No. So if somebody says, hey, Apple TV, are they talking about the streaming service, the app, or the box? Good luck.
Yep. Now,
Oh, boy.
I do kind of understand this to an extent, because anybody that made a TV show or movie or any sort of content for Apple TV Plus, in any interview they were ever in, would always say, oh yeah, you can just find it on Apple TV. They never said
Yes.
Plus. And I think that's kind of what Apple is like.
Yes.
Well, everyone thinks it's Apple TV as it is.
However, what they meant was you can find it in the Apple TV app on your Apple TV box. No, this has been a problem for a while, and this is not going to help, but I don't really think it's going to make it worse or more confusing.
Right.
Nobody was calling Apple TV Plus Apple TV Plus. Everybody was calling it Apple's streaming service or Apple TV, which is obnoxious because it's not. Technically, the Apple TV app is not Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus shows up in the Apple TV app, but if you have the Apple TV app on your device and you open it up, it's also going to show you stuff from Hulu and Disney Plus and ESPN and a half dozen other streaming services that are tied into it that, if you have any of those downloaded, they're all going to show up in there. And then Apple's stuff is also mixed in. So it's not, and then anything you've purchased through iTunes also shows up in there. So calling their streaming service something different would be nice, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I will say,
that's the
my
best.
favorite part about this was after the fact, somebody asked Eddie Q in an interview, they're all like, don't you think this is going to get kind of confusing for people that are going to be mixing this up with the Apple TV app and the Apple TV hardware? And he's all like, his response to that was, technically the hardware is called Apple TV 4K. And I'm like,
oh my
Eddie,
gosh.
This is why no one likes you.
No.
It's like, my dude, nobody in the history of ever has actually referred to that hardware as the quote-unquote Apple TV 4K. Just like when they released the 3rd gen Apple TV box, we didn't call it Apple TV 3rd gen. We just called it the Apple TV. That's what it's always been. Don't... Anyways. So yeah, good time.
So bad.
It is. In case you didn't realize, listener, the headline of this being Apple's biggest announcement of the past 20 years, it was facetious. I was joking. This is not actually a big announcement of any kind. I just thought it was funny and figured I would mention it.
That is pretty funny, though. Okay. Let's get off some Apple news. Let's move over to some Google news here. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold goes a boom.
Yeah, so this is
a cool video, I gotta say.
Yeah. Listener, if you haven't seen this video, I will link to it in the show notes because you should go watch it. So, the YouTube channel, Jerry Rig Everything, he always, for the last, I don't know how many years he's been doing this, at least 10 years, always gets the main flagship phones for all the big companies, Apple, Samsung, Google, Huawei, like all these big companies, buys their phones. And he does a very, it's technically a durability test, but it is intense what he does to these phones. And he does the same thing to every single phone. And that includes, he has some picks that he scratches the display with to see how hard it or how long it takes before it starts to scratch on the Mohs hardness scale of, up from 0 to 11, I think is what Diamond is. I don't know what it is.
10. It's 10.
Yeah. So he scratches it. Most phones scratch it like a level 6, as he says, with deeper grooves at a level 7. And you need to watch his videos just for him talking because his voice is fantastic. Anyways. All these foldable phones obviously scratch a lot quicker than that. Usually he can get them to scratch with just his fingernail on the inside display anyways. But he does that. He also sets a lighter to the display to see how long it lasts, to see if it actually still works afterwards. Most phones fare fine in that one. And then the way he actually became relatively famous, he went viral with a bend test on the iPhone 6.
Yeah.
It was the 6 Plus in particular.
Yep.
Because that phone, you could bend it, not in half, because it wasn't bending in half. It bent at the antenna lines, which was about a third of the way down the phone from the top.
It was the volume rocker.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was the volume rocker where it would fold.
Yeah.
But he just, with his hands, just...
Yeah. And ever since then, he did this before, but since then, he definitely always does some sort of bend to, he takes the phone and tries to bend it in half as best as he can. Most phones, since that iPhone, fare perfectly fine. There are a few every once in a while that will break, just because they're either cheap phones or not made very well, or they're a folding phone made by Google, because the Pixel Fold has folded in the exact same spot every single time. And surprising, and
in the wrong direction.
Yes, in the wrong direction. He doesn't just try a typical candy bar style phone. He will try to fold in half. This one, he will open it up and try to make it bend the opposite way that it's supposed to. And interestingly enough, all the Samsung phones have been perfectly fine. They've not folded.
The very first one, he managed to kind of damage the hinge. The phone didn't bend, but after he wrenched on it, he tried to fold it back the other direction, and the hinge was obviously not happy.
Yeah, it didn't fare well, but it didn't completely get destroyed.
Break.
Whereas the Pixel 10 or Pixel Fold phones, every single year, the hinge is usually okay, but where the antenna line is right next to the hinge, and every single year it has completely broken at that antenna line. So it's not, it comes at no surprise that Google, strangely enough, didn't fix this one either. And so it bent at the same spot when he bent it backwards. And in the process of trying to bend it closed again, like bend it back the way it's supposed to go, the battery somehow got caught in there and exploded. And you get his live reaction because obviously he's filming all this. Yeah. And all of a sudden smoke starts going everywhere and he just drops it and runs basically. Which is what you should do when like a lithium ion battery starts to smoke. You need to get away.
Yes.
But it's interesting. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen if you buy this phone because, like I said, he puts these phones under a lot of stress, and you shouldn't be trying to bend your phone backwards like he does. Yeah. But I will also say this hasn't ever happened in any phone that he's ever done this to. Even ones that do fold, other Pixel Fold phones that have bent backwards haven't done this.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. I'm not saying don't buy it because of this. Or don't not buy it because of this. But definitely be aware of the fact that if something catastrophic happens to your phone, the battery could go boom. And that's not a good situation to be in with any.
Yeah,
it's not as bad as like the Samsung Note 7 because that just
that was a
boom on its own.
manufacturing defect. That was bad.
It's just it's crazy. And again, you need to
go
watch
just
this
bad
video.
Luck.
Yeah,
because like you said, he's broken the previous versions of the Fold in the exact same spot. It's just this time he got unlucky that the battery is maybe a little bit wider or in a slightly different position, or maybe it was just, I don't know, just bad luck that it got pinched and made an internal short circuit. Once that happens, runaway exothermal event, and it catches on fire and starts spewing smoke all over the place.
Yeah. Again, it's a wild video. Definitely worth watching.
It's fun. It is a fun watch. And his takeaway from it is not avoid this phone because it'll catch on fire. His takeaway from it is, I've broken these phones in half in this exact same spot twice before, and it did it again. Obviously, nothing is getting fixed here, Google. Like, reinforce something, move the antenna lines somewhere, do some work. I don't know. Talk to your network engineers. What are they getting paid for? Figure something out here.
Yeah. And one of my favorite comments on the video was because he partners up with D-Brand to have a skin that goes on the phone that makes it look like the actual inside of the phone with pretty much every phone out there. And someone's like, "Oh, I can't wait to see the D-Brand exploded battery skin for this phone."
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh, and just because that comment is there, I'd be shocked if it didn't happen.
I mean, they're 100% going to think about it. The question is, are they going to be concerned about Google trying to fire a defamation suit at them or something?
I could see them doing a limited time run of that skin.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what D-Brand does because they are they would do something like that. They are that type of company.
Oh, absolutely. They're the most terminally online company on the planet, I swear. And they 100% saw that comment.
Yes.
Guaranteed.
Oh, awesome. I need to watch that video now.
Yeah, it's
I haven't
great.
Seen it, so. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. We got some Microsoft news. Listener, Microsoft has unceremoniously dragged Windows 10 out behind the woodshed and dispatched it without mercy.
Yep. It was on the, 14th or something
like
that?
It was the 14th, yep.
Yeah. Official EOL date for Windows 10, which I will say I was off before then.
Yeah.
Just barely by a week, but I am now, my gaming PC is Linux. And everything is working well enough that I see no reason to go back at all.
Wow.
So, in fact, I've started deleting my, I haven't actually finished. I need to finish that, but I've started clearing off all the hard drives because, man, I wanted so badly to just drop my Linux drive in and just use the existing game libraries on my Windows drives. But of course, the Windows drives are formatted as NTFC or NTFS, which is the file like structure format for the drive itself. Totally readable by modern versions of the Linux kernel, because drivers for NTFS have been built into the Linux kernel for the past like decade or so. However, for some reason, does not play nice with like Proton and Wine and the layered tools that not emulate, but sort of translate the Windows commands between the OS and the actual software. So all of the installed games are usable, but I can't use them on an NTFS drive. I have to copy them onto a Linux formatted drive or an exFAT formatted drive or something. And in order to do that, I have to have enough space for them. And I only have a 256 gig boot drive for my Linux install. So I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I tested a few of them out by copying them over. And then I was like, you know what? These are working well enough that I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and delete everything off of one of the drives. And so far, reformatted, stuff's been installed, everything's working. So I'm like, okay, now I can clear the rest of this stuff off and I'm gonna have a fully Linux gaming rig, which, I mean, I've got to say, no ads. There's no ads.
Enough said.
There's no AI. Hasn't tried to get me to sign up for Copilot or Office 365 or anything. Doesn't bug me about OneDrive, Sync.
But you don't have Candy Crush pre-installed anymore.
I don't
And
have
that's
Candy
sad.
Crush pre-installed right now. And here's the thing. It's like, what have I lost through all of this? Let me think. Game Pass? No, I was losing that already because of the price hikes and the fact that you can't use rewards points for it anymore. So that was already gone. Windows killed that. I'm losing access to Sea of Thieves. Oh, wait, no, Microsoft actually just recently added that to BattleNet, and you can, via some workarounds, get BattleNet working on Linux, so I should be able to install it via BattleNet. Okay, losing access to... it's just not much. It's like no list. And like last week, listener, this is a little behind the scenes for you. I was on my Linux install last week for the podcast, but I didn't have Audacity installed, which is the, audio capture software I use to capture my audio. That was a sentence. But it was installed and downloaded on my Windows partition on my computer. And so I was able to just go over to my Windows partition, grab my Audacity install, copy it over to Linux, and then run the thing through Wine, and it just worked, and everything recorded, and the audio was fine. So that's the kind of thing that I'm able to do with Linux now. And like, yes, somebody out there who is big into Linux and is much smarter than I am is thinking right now, you've been able to do that with Linux for a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. The difference is now there are a bunch of different distros that are built around me just being able to install the distro, and everything is already set up for me to do that. I'm using Bazzite. Everything came pre-configured. I've had to download basically nothing in terms of tools or whatever to make the Windows apps work. And it's been really nice. So I think that it's just an example. Like, I think that SteamOS took advantage of the open source community's development over the course of decades to make something incredible. But really what SteamOS did was sell you a pre-configured out-of-the-box experience that you really did not get with any other distribution of Linux. Yes, I've downloaded and used Ubuntu. I've tried Mint probably half a dozen times. I've tried all of these popular distros. They all required too much configuration for the average user. They just have for years and years and years and years and years. But now there's a bunch of distros that are like, wait, what if we did something where everything came pre-configured like SteamOS? And yes, that means that the download is bigger. Yes, it means that, like, you know, you have less choice when you set the thing up to customize it exactly how you want it. But to my Linux brethren out there, that's not what the average user wants.
Yeah.
What they want is a pre-configured out-of-box experience that just works. And yeah, like that's what SteamOS introduced to the open source community. They set an example of how that could be done, and a bunch of other distros have jumped on it. There was one I was reading about the other day that is a Linux distribution that is focused on gaming, but instead of like, you know, being like SteamOS and trying to get all of your modern games running, it's focused on emulation. So it comes pre-configured with all of the tools and apps and whatever you need for a wide variety of game, like retro game emulation. And I am very interested in that, just to see, you know, like, and since it's emulation, you can run that on pretty old hardware and it'll still work fine. You know, don't need a powerful graphics card to emulate like an N64, you know. It did not have powerful graphics. So yeah, it's been really nice, and I'm kind of loving the direction that it's moving. And I do feel like, no, 2025 is not the year of the Linux desktop. That might be 2026, though. I think that killing Windows 10, forcing everybody to sign up for an online account, flooding their operating system with AI crap that nobody wanted, and making you buy a new PC in the process, I think that Microsoft has totally screwed themselves with this thing. I don't think that I think this is going to hurt for them. I think it's really going to hurt over the next 6 months. So, yeah, Windows 10, it's gone. It wasn't as good as Windows 7, but honestly, I feel like it was a pretty darn close second. I by the end, I appreciate Windows 10 more than I appreciate Windows XP, with the benefit of hindsight. I still think Windows 7 is by far the best OS that they've made, but I think Windows 10 was really solid.
I would agree with that. And listener, you can tell how excited Caleb is about Linux. So that whole spiel.
It's getting good, guys. Like, it's... the grass really is greener. I'm not even kidding. It's like, obviously I will continue to update on my progress as things move along. But so far, the only hiccup I've run into is I did try to install BattleNet, and in the 10 minutes I dedicated to it, I got it installed and started up, and it was all like, something went wrong, restart. And I restarted, and it still wasn't able to connect to like Blizzard servers. And I didn't really do any diagnosing beyond that. So I haven't solved that problem fully yet. So I don't have Sea of Thieves installed yet. And I don't have StarCraft 2 and I guess Diablo 3. Are there any other games that I care about on BattleNet? I think that's it. so yeah. Haven't quite solved all of the problems yet, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Good. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's move on. Got some general tech here. So, about that whole Cybertruck thing.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes. How am I supposed to put a positive spin on this one? So, a couple of weeks ago, I brought up a story of a lawsuit that had been brought against Tesla because of some deaths that happened to passengers in a Cybertruck that caught on fire because they weren't able to release the back door latches because they didn't know how to get to them because they're hidden underneath a fetching panel inside of the bin on the bottom of the door card, which is the dumbest freaking thing I've ever heard of. Tesla, you monsters. Just a statistic to add on to that whole story that I heard this past week. I can't remember who it was. It was like a consumer rights activist group that reported through Bloomberg, I want to say, but I can't remember the name of the organization itself. But they took, they did an analysis of the reported deaths in Cybertrucks due to fire, right? So specifically, vehicle catches on fire, the death is because of the fire, right? Now, occasionally these are instances of there was an accident, somebody was injured in the accident and unable to exit the vehicle because of their injury, and then they died in the fire, right? So it's not necessarily that it's just like, oh no, an explosion and they died, but other things may have compounded that fact, but it was the fire that actually killed them. Okay. So that's the type of death that we're talking about in this statistic. They were comparing the Cybertruck to the Ford Pinto. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the history of automotive, with the history of vehicles in the United States, listener, but the Ford Pinto was a vehicle in the 70s that was designed by Ford to be cheap, very economical, and that was it. They just anything they could to cut corners, they did, including really, really poorly optimized placement of the fuel tank, which was behind the rear axle, basically inside the rear bumper, meaning that if you got rear-ended in a Ford Pinto, your gas tank ruptured and dumped fuel all over the underside of your car and the road beneath it. If there were any sparks, if it, got into contact with the engine of the car that hit you, which was probably hot, there was going to be fire, right? There were going to be flames, occasionally explosions. The Ford Pinto has been lambasted for decades as the quintessential vehicle for blowing up. It's been featured in so many movies and TV shows as oh, here's a vehicle. It gets barely dinked in the rear bumper by another car and the whole thing explodes kind of thing. That has happened so often. It's got its own TV tropes page. Okay. That's the Ford Pinto. Obviously the thing over the years it was available sold something like 3 million units or something like that. Cybertruck hasn't sold anywhere near that, but they have a statistic for basically fire deaths per 100,000 vehicles sold. And for the Ford Pinto, that was somewhere in the order of 0.5, right? So for every 100,000 vehicles sold, half a person would die. Which I guess means for every 200,000 vehicles sold, there was one fire-related death within a Ford Pinto. Okay?
Okay.
They did the same. They gathered all the data, did a comparison for the Cybertruck. Obviously, to do a one-to-one comparison isn't really possible because they haven't even sold 100,000 Cybertrucks at this point. They've sold about 50,000. We're guessing. Tesla won't tell us because that's frankly kind of embarrassing that they haven't broken 100,000 when their manufacturing line for the thing is tooled up to make 100,000 of them a year. They're apparently doing about 20. So 50,000 sold, meaning we have to double the actual number of fire-related deaths in the Cybertruck to get to an equivalent 100,000 sold. Any guesses as to what the number of deaths per 100,000 Cybertrucks sold estimate is?
Oh,
Given that it's 0.5 for the Ford Pinto.
Oh,
2.
I'm gonna say 5.
Ooh.
5 is the total number of fire-related deaths in a Cybertruck to date. That's 50,000 Cybertrucks. So if we want to do a direct comparison per 100,000 Cybertrucks sold, we're estimating about 10 deaths in fire, which that's a lot higher than the most notoriously flammable vehicle in the history of cars.
Wow. Now, to be fair to the Pinto, you could get out of that if it caught on fire.
That's true. And I think that's the main reason why it's not quite so bad. Yeah, the Cybertruck, it's rough out there. Evidently, I actually may have misreported. It's a little bit hard because there is an active lawsuit. A lot of this information is not necessarily being talked about by the people who have knowledge of it. They are kind of under wraps pending ongoing litigation. So there's been a lot of speculation about the accident that we talked about previously on the podcast. And from what I understand, it's a case of there were 4 people in that thing. The accident occurred when the Cybertruck itself was T-boned by another large vehicle, and the driver and rear passenger on that side may have both died in the impact, not the fire that happened afterwards. So technically not fire-related deaths. They just died by getting T-boned, which when you consider how much everyone talks up, like, well, no, I want to buy a Cybertruck because it's so much safer for my family inside. Evidently not. If you die in a T-bone, like, to be clear, depending on the speed of the other vehicle, it doesn't matter what you're driving. You could definitely get killed by getting T-boned in those things. But Cybertruck's a big, heavy truck. Like, if you die in that, I don't know how fast the other vehicle was going, but okay. So that's that, which means that only one person in that vehicle died due to fire. It was the other passenger in the rear seat that, according to the lawsuit, had sustained minor injuries in the impact and was otherwise fine, able to exit the vehicle, but unable to do so because of the way that the rear door was designed. The passenger in the front seat was apparently able to exit the vehicle and did not die. So, yeah, like, just to clear the air on that, but that one death in that case related to fire brings the fire death total up to 5. Apparently, a previous accident where it was attributed to a fire death for the driver of the Cybertruck got into an accident, was knocked unconscious in the accident, suspected his injuries were not serious, but again, the battery pack caught on fire, burned so hot that it effectively cremated the guy. Which, it's an actual crematorium, apparently, under the right circumstances. Kind of impressive in its own way, because it takes a lot of heat to burn bone. But yeah, so that's, I don't know, man. Like, we talked about it, like I said, on the podcast, and we all agreed that you, listener, are not dumb enough to buy a Cybertruck. You're obviously not. But, when I said don't even ride in somebody else's Cybertruck, yeah, just don't. It's not worth it. Call an Uber. I don't know. And if the Uber is driving a Cybertruck, call a different Uber.
Wow. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's move on.
Let's talk about something happier.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see if this is happy. Samsung is having one more Galaxy event this year.
Yeah, strangely enough, this is not unpacked. I was really hoping that this was going to be called another Samsung Unpacked event, but no, it does on the thing say Galaxy event. So that's what this is. Although we're not expecting a phone, because, that would make sense. Galaxy phone, no,
sure.
not happening.
Tablets?
Nope, not even tablets, because that's also named Galaxy. But no, this
watch?
Nope, not watches. Not
guessing.
Not earbuds, nothing. With
no.
Well, okay. I can't say it's nothing with the Galaxy name because we don't know yet. The only name we know most likely what this product is going to be, the only name we know it as is Project Muhan, which is their Android-based Vision OS competitor, or Vision headset, whatever. What's that stupid thing called?
The spatial computing device.
And they did kind of announce this back in January. Again, we know it as Project Muhan. They've been working with Google on this VR, AR headset type thing. But I guess they're actually going to be announcing it officially with a name. And if you reserve beforehand, you can get $100 credit toward it, which isn't going to save you much because it's probably going to be around that $2,500, $2,000 price. I do think it will be cheaper than the Apple Vision Pro, but not considerably cheaper because it's supposed to compete with that in both hardware and software. And so that's going to be fun. But this is going to be happening on October 21st. So as of recording, just a couple days away. You might be listening to this before that, but probably not. So you may already know what this thing is officially going to be
So
called.
let us know your thoughts on it.
Yes. Email us. Tell us what you think about this new headset. So I am curious. I am interested in it. I'm not going to buy one, obviously. I'm not buying a Vision Pro. I'm not buying this because I definitely can't afford that. And I have no good use case for either of them. But
I was going to say, even if I could afford it, I have better things I would spend my money on.
Exactly. But I have people that have used back in January when this was first kind of announced, there were people that were able to use more or less what this headset is. Again, it was probably an early iteration of what it was. It may have tweaked a little bit, probably not a lot, but a little bit. Software wise though, it was basically finished at that point. And the people that I've listened to that have used this software, at least, do say it does compete with what Apple is doing with Vision OS. And some actually like it a little more just because Gemini is actually a useful AI service and Apple still doesn't have that. And using Gemini in this type of scenario, again, most people that have used it say that's actually a really great place to have some sort of, speaking interface. So we'll see. Again, we'll see how this goes. And once reviews come out, who knows when that happens, because we don't even know when this is going to be, available to purchase. It's just going to be announced this week. It may not be available to purchase until next year at some point. We never know. So we will find out on Tuesday. Official name, what it actually can do, how much it's going to cost, and all sorts of different things. So this should be fun, right?
We'll see. Also, Samsung is selling things out of order.
So
That's the
this
next
actually
thing.
goes back to a Galaxy device that we do know about. So you, listener, if you've been listening to us for at least since January when the latest Galaxy S phone was announced, you know how upset we were, me specifically, that they didn't have a Qi 2 compatible device that they announced. And they still don't. But their phones are quote-unquote Qi 2 ready, meaning you can slap a case that has the magnets on it and be able to charge it with a Qi 2 charger. Stupid, but it kind of works, I guess. But they are now, I guess, selling Qi 2 charging puck on their website, built for Galaxy, but for a Galaxy device that doesn't exist yet. So, yeah. That's interesting. It's like, why would you come out with the way to charge the phone that doesn't exist before coming out with the phone? It's very strange. They have just your regular charging puck, like what Apple has, what Google has, for $35, and they also have a car charger for $85. That's all Qi 2 compatible. Yes, it's expensive.
Whoa!
Wow, 85 bones.
It's interesting, and the best part about that is neither of these devices come with the charging block that you need to plug it into a wall. So if you don't have a 25-watt charging brick already, then you have to pay extra for that. But, I mean, to be fair, most people do have that, especially if you have a Samsung device or a Pixel device that could potentially utilize this charger, then you probably do have a 25-watt charging brick somewhere. But it's just funny that it doesn't come with that. It's just the puck and the cable that it's attached to. I would assume USB-C on the one end. But yeah, very interesting that it doesn't have that. And yeah, $35 for the cheap one, which is comparable to Apple and Google for their Qi 2 wireless chargers. $85 seems a little steep. I mean, if you're going to buy a Qi 2 compatible car charger, just buy one from Anchor because it's going to be better and cheaper.
Like at that price, it's the same hardware as the $35 one with some extra plastic to make it stick to a vent. Like Samsung, that's not another $40 worth of plastic. It's maybe you could charge $10 extra for it, and I'd be chill with that. What the heck?
Yeah, and that's really all what it is. It's a vent card, like a vent charger. It's not one that you can suction to your window or something like that. No, this is just a vent one for $85.
That's wild. That's wild.
It's expensive. So don't buy that one if you're going to buy either of these. But I mean, if you're planning on buying the Galaxy S26 next year, this is a good sign. It might finally have Qi 2 charging built into the phone. So it may not hurt to just buy this now, and then, when that phone comes out, hopefully they don't screw you over and not have it again, because I could also see them doing that.
Oh, it'd be so sad.
True. All right. Well, let's get into some gaming. Not a lot, but listeners, some hardware was released. And the hardware I'm talking about, the Asus ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X, are now available. And reviews that I've been able to look at is that it is okay. it is okay. Yep. That's what it is. People, if I want to get a little more in depth, people really are enjoying that they get all their stores and games onto there, but Windows 11 is not for gaming. So put those together, it's okay. All the reviews, the things I've been paying attention to on this, it's okay. So
what I'm hearing is it's a hardware wise and idea wise, it's great. But if they just had better software.
It is that Windows 11 is what I've been. Yeah. That's it.
It's very much a case of, yes, the Ally X is like some of the most powerful hardware you can get in a handheld console right now.
Yes.
And it's priced like it at $1,000. Yes. That sucker is not really competitive. No. And then the cheaper one is so underpowered versus its price that it feels like a terrible deal, right? Everyone's all like, yeah, it's more powerful than a Steam Deck OLED, but or a Steam Deck LCD, but not like double the power, because it is double the price.
Yep.
So it's like, if you're looking at that one because you want to save money, save more money. Get a Steam Deck is essentially what people have been saying. And then, in terms of the software, it's all like, okay, is this a better experience than just trying to run Windows 11? Because Windows 11 doesn't really have a big screen mode. Yes, but it is not anywhere near the, this is a stripped down Xboxified version of Windows 11 that we were promised, that doesn't boot the desktop, that doesn't load any background processes or anything like that like lets you play on this streamlined, super efficient kind of thing. It's like, no, it's not that. It's an overlay for Windows 11 that is a better interface than Windows 11 and does reduce the strain on the hardware a little bit, but it's not a game changer. It's a minor improvement.
Yeah.
So like, better, yes, but certainly not a world-changing thing. And I mean, you can try it out on your gaming desktop if you prefer to do that. You can use it there. It's just an overlay for Windows 11.
Yep.
Or you could switch to Linux. Just throwing that one out there. Not sure if I mentioned.
Just throwing it out
like
there.
It's like that top end one is like, sure, no, it's a very powerful handheld gaming PC. It is still just a handheld gaming PC. If you're an Xbox gamer, you have a big library of Xbox games. Well, some of them will work. Like if it's in Game Pass, then probably it'll work. But if it's not, good luck. I don't know. You may get it, but you may have to rebuy it via Steam, because it is still just a PC. There's no like Xbox emulation happening here or anything like that.
Yeah. It's they have talked about they're trying to get it more better that way, but yeah, as of right now, like I said, it's just okay.
Yep.
So,
I mean, what it sounds like to me is like they really wanted to get this hardware out because Steam has their product and it's selling well because it's actually a decent product. And they're like, well, the software is not fully ready yet, but it's quote unquote good enough to sell. So we're just going to push it out, even though what we really want, at least what the Xbox people really want on the software side of things, isn't there yet. And then maybe in the future they'll update it. But again, as we have said a lot, and a lot of people say all the time, don't buy a product in hopes that it's going to get better.
Yes. Yeah. And
especially one that's this expensive.
Probably some of the rush to push it out is down to this being a partnership with Asus and not just a straight Microsoft Xbox type thing. Like Asus probably, as the developers of the hardware, were like, look, hardware's ready to go, guys. It's like, we got to get it out now before it's super outdated or whatever, which I guess kind of didn't work with the regular Ally, but the Ally X at the very least. So it's like, maybe not entirely Microsoft's fault on that front, but if you're working with a partner, that is what it comes down to. And you just kind of got to release it as is. And yeah, I guess you can just hope that Windows 11 is going to somehow get better for gaming over time. But that is not the direction that Microsoft has been trending at all for the past 10 years. So just a thing to note. Just something to note.
So that's the hardware. If you want to, I mean, you can take a look at some videos. There's hundreds of people looking at this. Might I suggest, as you're looking and you are interested and just want to know information, maybe don't look at big YouTubers and things. Maybe look at someone that you could trust that's more like not in the Xbox ecosystem or not, but that just is just reviewing tech that could be like, oh, this.
I think that like a pretty good number of the folks that traditionally cover PC gaming had relatively balanced opinions on it. I think that it's the Xbox, like the console gamers, right? Either the PlayStation gamers, the Xbox gamers are having much stronger reactions to this. The folks that focus on PC hardware, they got this thing in hand and they're all like, yes, handheld gaming PC. I've seen this before.
Yes.
It's a sequel to the ROG Ally. I talked about that. Oh, it says Xbox on it. Sure, whatever. I don't care. Like it's, and so they're evaluating it as a handheld gaming PC, which is what it is. So they're evaluating it on its terms. And those are the people that are like, yeah, it's extremely powerful. This is a good big picture mode for Steam or for Windows 11. And it does a good job of integrating a lot of like your existing game libraries and just standalone game installs and stuff. So like it's a good software tool, very powerful hardware, very comfortable, good joysticks. Everything's nice. It's expensive, but it is also kind of the best. So you get what you pay for, I guess, but it is pricey. And that's kind of the takeaway, right? Like it's okay. It's good. It's expensive. It's not like a great deal. This isn't blowing anyone's minds the way that the Steam Deck was because, that thing kind of was underpriced and is still underpriced. So it's not that. It's priced to make a profit, but I think in the eyes of the PC gamers, it makes a lot more sense than it does in the eyes of the Xbox gamers,
I would have to agree to that just because if you are looking for the next Xbox, this isn't it. I would suggest no, this is not that. So I would just, like I said, find someone if you want to look at more. Obviously, there's going to be lots of videos you can take a look and judge for yourself. And if you got money to spend, I guess go for it. All right. And that actually brings us to the end of the episode. Unless, Landon, you have one more thing for us?
Yahoo! I do.
You know what? That's actually kind of funny. Discord actually it went yah and then it went silent on my end, and then it stopped. So I'm like,
it
interesting.
clipped it.
Yep.
It's like,
flipped it out.
oh no, not this again.
Yep.
That's understandable. I do have one more thing. So this, I actually initially had this in general tech, listener. I thought, no, this is interesting enough. I got to add it to one more thing. So, I don't know if you've heard of this company, listener. It's called Honor. They make cell phones. They're typically only sold in China, most of their phones anyways. Some make it out of there. Some of their bigger flagships will get out to the, outside of China, not necessarily to the US. Every once in a while it does happen, but not super often anymore. They did announce a new flagship smartphone, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. They announced a concept that supposedly in this video says, see you in 2026. I can't remember what, I actually had a day, a month, I think. Might have been January. I can't remember. Might have been CES. I don't know. Something like that. But they're calling this the robot phone. And listener, they do have a promotional video for this thing. I will link to that in the show notes because it's a very intriguing device. Now, the way I worded this originally was if you get Wall-E, the robot, and BB-8, and they make a phone, it's kind of what we have here. Except, it doesn't roll around, unfortunately. But it's like your typical candy bar style phone. On the back, it's got the giant camera, as everyone now calls it, plateau, because it goes across the whole thing and it's large. It's got two cameras on the right middle side of the camera plateau, and then a little window that, according to this video, will slide over, a piece of glass that slides over, and then a robotic arm with a camera that basically looks like a little gimbal, like a camera on a gimbal, pops out and can rotate around and move and talk to you, theoretically, according to this video. As Honor says, they say this innovative device will integrate AI-powered multimodal intelligence, robotic functionality, and advanced handheld imaging capabilities. As a new species of AI device, the Honor robot phone will redefine future human-machine interaction and coexistence, positioning Honor at the forefront of AI device innovation. That's awfully bold of them to say, in my opinion. But it's a very interesting device. Now, this video shows basically this little robotic camera, head, arm thing out. Most of the time, this phone is being used. It shows it in a guy's pocket, and the camera is just looking around at people. It says hi to somebody that walks by. And then it's sitting on the table. These people want to take a picture. It says, say cheese, and take a picture of them. And it just can look around, and it's very interesting. I can't say that I hate the idea of this. It's just, I don't know exactly what my thoughts are. I'm definitely curious, and I want to see actually how well it really works, because this promotional video, I'd be willing to bet it's completely rendered. It's not an actual device yet. They might have one that does work to an extent, because like I said, they do say see you in 2026.
Yeah.
But
so this thing is on a computer controlled gimbal. It's a camera on a computer controlled gimbal mounted in the back of a phone, which in terms of packaging is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But certainly not unreasonable. And in terms of having a gimbal on a camera as kind of your robotic controlled eye for an AI. Okay, I can see that. The technology exists for this, right? The thing that's all fake is all of the interactions and capabilities that they're claiming for this thing.
Yeah.
100% manufactured. I guarantee nothing in that video was actually done really.
Right.
and this looks like a hilarious gimmick. And it's yeah, no. I'm calling it right now. This will be really fun to make fun of for most of next year.
Yeah. Now I am seeing
'Cause,
there
no.
it's Mobile World Congress of 2026. So MWC, which
Okay.
is in March. So relatively early in 2026. Not as early as I had originally thought, but still March, we will potentially see this device again. I don't know if it's going to go on sale then, which is kind of what they're leaning like. They make it seem like they want to sell this product starting sometime next year. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily see that happening.
No.
Again, I like the idea behind it. Like Caleb said, the hardware of it is intriguing, and the packaging
And feasible.
yes, it's definitely feasible.
I think it's feasible.
It's just implementation is going to be a major factor here, and how well
Yeah.
the software actually will work, because especially when they're definitely putting a very heavy emphasis on the AI side of things, really makes me skeptical on any of this actually working the way they want it to. Now, the way I would like to see this work is, yeah, you can put a computerized gimbal on this to make the phone, like the camera, pop out and do some cool things with that. But I want that to be software controlled by me. Like, put a little control on the screen and make it so it's like it built into the phone. You don't have to buy a separate camera and or gimbal to utilize like you can buy a DJI Gizmo. Well, I think it's called the Gizmo, but it's a little camera with a gimbal built onto it that you can control via the little handle on it. That's great. But if you could have that built into your phone and control with on-screen buttons and things like that, fantastic.
Yeah.
But the AI side of it is like, I just don't see that working very well.
The AI side of it's totally made up. But if they give you a phone with basically a built-in gimbal stabilized camera, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I do think that would be
the kind
really
of thing
cool.
that I'm all like, I mean, that's neat. That's the sort of weird thing I want to see people building into phones.
Yeah.
Right? So like, as long as you forget about the AI stuff, as long as there is just hey, this is now just functionally a gimbal attached to your phone. As long as there's a mode for that, I'm fully on board. This is neat.
Yeah. Like, because, I mean, we've seen phones that have pop-up cameras that can hide and whatnot, and that was kind of cool, but I'm like, if that thing gets stuck out, it's going to break really easily. They've had cameras that flip backwards and forwards on top of the phone. Also an interesting idea. Whatever. This one, though, actually intrigues me because, yes, having a built-in gimbal makes for super stabilized videos and just all sorts of different things that you could do with this. And yes, going back to the camera that pops in and out, it could break if it gets stuck out. Like, there's obviously some mechanical issues that could happen here, but I do think it's the most intriguing idea I've seen on the camera side of things for phones, like mechanically speaking anyways, for a while.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a fun concept. Like, hey, here's your phone. It's got a gimbal in it. Like, okay, neat. I like it. It's kind of like the couple of years ago, the watch that was all like, hey, here's your big old smartwatch. It has earbuds in it.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. I'm like, this is funny. This is neat. I like it. But yeah, I am actually looking at the promotional video. A ton of it seems to be Sora 2 generated, I will say.
Yeah.
So that's like, oh, good. You're using an AI video generator to generate video of a supposed AI phone that, yes, this seems very reliable.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by it. I will be paying attention to this when it comes out in March. And I will be talking about it when it does come out because, again, if the mechanical side of things actually work the way they want it to, very interesting. I couldn't care less about the AI side of this, though.
Sure. That is interesting. was watching some of those little looking at pictures and stuff. It really, it's interesting. That's all I can say. But all right, listener, we appreciate you listening to the end of this episode and listening to any other episodes that you have listened to. If you want to get a hold of us or want to say something or want to actually congratulate Caleb, there's a few ways that you can do this. Number one, you can get on our social media platform that we're on there, for Facebook, Twitter, whatever on there. You can hop on there, ask a question, or congratulate. Or two, you can go to our website. You can go to callingallplatforms.com, or you can hop on that YouTube channel, make a comment, like, subscribe, all those things on the YouTube channel, and ask for more. Because I bet he's been inspired to do some more.
Sure.
I don't know. He's got his yearly quota done, so
I mean, he's got his 2 yearly quota done.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, listener. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
see ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.